Hello, this is Trevor from Coaches of Technology. This is part one of a four-part series on creating video lessons. In this first installation, we will talk about setting up PowerPoint for your video production. In the second part, we'll talk about recording and editing a PowerPoint presentation and then exporting that for post-production editing. In the third installation, we'll talk about post-production editing. And then finally, we'll talk about how to post the video to YouTube or your website or some other content management system. So let's talk about the motivation for recording these mini lessons. You probably already want to do this, but let's talk about why you want to do this. These mini lessons typically have a short duration, which makes it manageable for you to create, and it also makes it manageable for your students to watch. This also should be something that's reusable from year to year because you don't want to redo these each and every semester. In particular, for me, I have a website called physicsthisweek.com, and on this website, I will add video clips that talk about different topics. So a student who misses a day could go back in and watch this, or a student who didn't quite get it during a lecture can go back in and take a look at what I'm talking about. This empowers students. It allows them to watch it on their own time, and they can review later on. The other thing this does is it saves your class time for guided practice. If a student watches the background information before class, you don't have to stand up in front of them and tell them about it. They've already seen that. Now you're set to flip your classroom, meaning that when they come in, you give them an activity where they're actually putting that information to use, and they can ask you for questions if they need it. Now, some of the tools that you need to do this, there are some hardware and software considerations to think about. Of course, you need a computer. You want a good quality set of headphones so that you can actually listen to your presentation. If you listen to it on your speakers in your room, you're going to miss some of the subtle background noises that you would not miss if you're using headphones. And remember, students these days typically listen to this wearing headphones, so they're going to hear all of the background stuff, the dog barking in the distance that you might not catch. You also want a good quality microphone. You should prepare to spend $50 to $100 on that. If you get lucky, you might find something like this Samson Go mic that I was able to find. I spent a little under $50 for this. This is very nice. It's portable. I can take it back and forth to my office at school, my office at home. The software you need, you probably already have as a teacher. PowerPoint. You could use something like OpenOffice. The concern I have with that is I'm not certain how easy it is to export a video from those types of things. So I'm going to stick with PowerPoint. You also need Windows Movie Maker. Again, this isn't the most powerful software that's available out there, but you should try it with this. It's a free download if you go to Microsoft.com or do a Google search for Windows Movie Maker. It'll send you right to the right spot. It's free. It's relatively easy to use. It doesn't have too many bells and whistles to distract you. And if you find that you really enjoy doing this, then go out and spend $200 on something else. Or if your school has something else that's available to you for free, spending the time using this simple version, you don't have to spend a ridiculous amount of time learning how to use something else. You also need a platform to post these videos so that your students can get to it. I would recommend that you use YouTube for reasons that I'll talk about in a little bit. But you can also use your own content management system, which might be your own website if your school doesn't have something like Angel or Blackboard. A couple of guidelines when you're setting these things up. I'm recommending that you prepare it for YouTube for several reasons. One, YouTube is portable. It's been here for a while. It's going to be here. You can embed YouTube videos onto your website, and most content management systems will let you put a link to a YouTube video. The other thing it does is it puts a somewhat low but not very restrictive size on your file so that you can move these around from place to place. But it also, once you put it up on YouTube, The only thing you need on your own website is a short link. The other reason for this is the longevity of YouTube. In order to put something up on YouTube and make it look good, there are certain factors that you need to take into consideration: your screen size, your resolution, and things like that. If you shoot for the YouTube compatibility, chances are it's going to look good for the next several years at least. Now, there are a couple of limits that you should place on yourself. And the reason that you want to put these limits is if you try to cram too much garbage in there, you're going to have just a big pile of garbage. So you really should limit yourself to 1 or 2 topics. You should shoot for about 18 minutes maximum. If you've ever seen TED Talks, they have a very hard cap of 18 minutes. However, if you shoot for about 10 minutes, that's probably more along the lines that a student will be willing to say, hey, I've got 15 minutes here, let me watch this video and take some notes on it. The other limit that I have is about 30 words per screen. If you set up a full window of text, you're going to lose the attention of your students very fast. This is true whether it's on a PowerPoint on a screen in the front of the classroom, or if it's on a video. Obviously, none of these limits are hard and fast, but if you shoot for these, you'll have a manageable and watchable presentation. Okay, you also want to use appropriate pictures throughout. If you're going to post this on the internet and not just use it for your class, you really should use you should really use pictures that are set up with the Creative Commons. This is one that I got from flickr.com, and I did a search to make sure that it was attribution with no derivatives, which means that this person, Kennington Fox, has said that I can use this picture however I want it as long as I put his name right on there. If you put a picture that you just randomly pick off of the internet, or if you use something from your textbook that has a copyright on it, as long as you're in your classroom, chances are with educational fair use, you have no problems. If you do post it onto the internet though, and Pearson or McGraw-Hill or Wiley wants to come after you, they have the big guns and they can do that. So I would recommend right from the beginning, don't use pictures from your textbook, use Creative Commons pictures. Okay, the last thing to remember is just do this. Get it done. It doesn't have to be perfect, but as you do it, you will get better and you will get faster at this whole process. Okay, now you should set up your slides so that they're all set to go for you. And in doing this in PowerPoint, you can see up here, if you go to Design and then Slide Size, I would make this widescreen. If you don't, when you post it on YouTube, chances are that it's going to have the black bars on either side and it's going to look very unprofessional. Okay, you should leave a margin around the edges of your slide. This way things don't get cut off. If you want to reuse one of these in your classroom, then you don't have to worry about going over the edge of the screen while you're doing it. I typically leave about 1/3 of an inch. I would recommend that you use Slide Master. That is a design tool, and we'll talk about that in a later presentation. This gives you some consistency, okay? And you should plan again for longevity. That's part of the reason that we're using YouTube. I would recommend that you add some type of a watermark or a copyright notice. You can see on this slide, I've got one right here with my name on it and the year that I made it. You should avoid school branding. One of the things that schools like to do these days is change their logos every couple of years. Okay, now some guidelines for your content. You're going to want to have an introduction slide. This should have your objectives so people can look at this and know almost immediately what they should expect from the video. Okay, your content should only be about 5 to 10 slides. And as I mentioned earlier, avoid big walls of text. You should only have 1 or 2 topics for the entire lesson, and it's okay to refer to other lessons. And then finally, you should have a review slide. That review slide should be exactly 1 slide. Okay, once you get your information in, and I am assuming at this point that you have some PowerPoint slides already ready to go, then you go in and start to make animations. In the classroom, the animations aren't as important. When you're doing a video, the animation can make or break your presentation. You'll want to use the animation pane, which you can see if you go to the Animations tab There's a button here for animation pane. Once you press that, this guy will show up. You can adjust the width of this so that it shows whether you're doing a timing or a on click. I would recommend that you limit the types of animations that you put in. The fade versus the appearing, I would recommend the fade. It comes in a little more gently than the appear does. It gives students a chance to see it come in so they know where you're talking as you go. The other thing I like to use are wipes, in particular in animations and, in pictures and things like that. I like to have things wipe in. I am a physics teacher by trade. I like to have my equations wipe in so it looks like they're being written down. Again, these things are gentle and let students see where you're talking about as you go. You'll want to make use of timing. You can start things on a click, or you can start them after previous. If you noticed when this bit of information came in, I clicked once, so the headline showed up and then the other thing showed up. If everything comes in on a click, oftentimes you spend a lot more time talking on something, and sometimes you'll talk about it before it actually appears. So you can group things and make them come in together in small groups. Okay, I don't think I need to say anything else after that demonstration. Okay, then in review, these 18 to 20 minute video lessons allow students to work at their own pace, and it will free up class time for guided practice. In essence, what you're doing is flipping your classroom. Whenever you're making these presentations, make sure that you include an introduction slide with lesson objectives. Only include about 5 to 10 content slides and only cover 1 to 2 topics at most. Otherwise, your production will get to be a bit too long. Finally, include just a single review slide. In using animations, you go ahead and use fades and wipes, but don't use too much else for animations. The key thing is to not overdo the animations. Okay, this has been part 1 of this video series. Please stop by again to see part 2, in which we'll talk about recording your narration. This has been Trevor from Coaches of Technology. Have a good day.